Good day, everyone. This is Vincent S. Miller with Systematic Biblical Theology. Thank you for joining me again today for another video. Today we're going to continue our discussions in systematic theology with our second part of the series, The Argument for God. This is part 2, the argument against atheism and agnosticism. In part 1, we discussed the different scientific facts that go against the theories that science have manufactured for why we are here in the universe apart from God. When you stack up all the scientific facts against the Big Bang Theory, the Drake equation shows the scientific impossibility of such a Goldilocks of the state in which our world is in, against all odds to have all the life that we have in it. The evidence is completely overwhelming that something created everything in the universe. It was not a cosmic accident. It was not formed out of chaos. But all of the evidence points to a designer that perfectly put everything in balance, in perfect harmony, for us to be in the perfect scenario where we can live and prosper as we have on earth for the history of our time. Everything from part 1 compels you to make a decision on how we are here, which then forms your philosophy for life, which leads us to the first of this group, the atheist. An atheist is simply one who believes absolutely that there is no God, no creator, no source for this universe, that is all a cosmic accident. These are the ones who cling to the scientific theories of the Big Bang Theory, which brought us to the point of the creation of our planet billions of years ago, which led to the evolution of microscopic organisms to where we are as mankind today. As we discussed in part 1, all of these theories go totally against the grain of scientific fact as we observe in practical science every day and have for hundreds of years. The question then becomes, why do scientists go all in on these theories and try to present them as absolute scientific fact when they're not? Just today I saw a video clip of Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is an astrophysicist and very popular in the mainstream circles today in science. And I have a lot of respect for him myself because he does leave room for a belief in a creator. At least he's sensitive to people's faith, so I can respect that. He explained in his video how scientists in the past came up with the idea of an expanding universe. He said that they observed through telescopes distant galaxies, through observing different wavelengths, they came up with the conclusion that the galaxy was expanding. Reasonable enough. But then unfortunately he ended the video with, "This is absolute proof that the Big Bang Theory is true." Which I about pulled my hair out, thinking, no, it is absolutely it's not. You cannot observe through a telescope light years away, which by the way, the nearest star to our own solar system is over 25 trillion miles away. The human mind cannot understand the number trillion. Honestly, we can't even understand the number million or billion because our minds cannot comprehend or experience that. We cannot count that high in our lifetime, at least not while trying to live your life. So why would any scientist, understanding how observable science is proven, would look at something through a telescope trillions of miles away and say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is scientific fact? That's not how science is done, people. That is not how scientific fact is proven. You can definitely say it's scientific theory. You can definitely say that may support our theories, but you can't declare it to be absolute fact. Which brings me back to my point. Why do scientists do this. And many times it comes down to their philosophy that they are atheists. Somewhere along the way, they made the decision that we are here as a result of a cosmic accident and are desperate to try to prove themselves to be right. And it is quite logical that if you truly firmly believe that there's not a creator in the universe, not a God, then there would have to be a scientific explanation. But after you examine all the scientific facts that totally just go against the idea of the theories that we have now, you would think that they would come to the conclusion and be honest with themselves that there's a problem with their theories. But they do not. Many of them like to lord over everyone, saying, I'm more educated than you, I understand it, and you don't, you're not smart enough. Well, buddy, I know I'm smart enough to know when I'm hitting a brick wall, and that's where you're at with your scientific facts compared to your scientific theories. But unfortunately, that is not the case that occurs when they get to this point, if they ever get to this point, because they like to cling to their beliefs and really force them upon us more than people of faith do. And why is that? Why are they so bitter? You would think that if you did not believe in a higher power, that you don't believe that there are absolute morals, that there's really any consequences to your actions in life, that you could just let it go and say, hey, you live your life however you'd like to live it, and I'll live it the way I want to live it. But that is not what happens, ever. They basically want to jump down your throat. Just take a look at some of the atheist videos online. They are some of the most bitter and hateful things you've ever seen. Why is that? Why can't they just say, hey, you know what? I don't even have all the answers, but I don't believe that there's a creator. I don't believe there's a higher power. You would think they would be very peaceful and say, whatever you want, because it doesn't really matter. But that's not the case I've ever really experienced with any atheist. They are always very bitter and very demanding that you conform to their way of thinking. Now, I know some of you will say, I've seen people of faith do the same thing, and I'm sure there are people like that. But in general, they do it from a position of love, not a position of they think that they're better than you or that they obviously don't not hate. Honestly, if I saw one thing and had to make a decision on any of the groups that we're going to discuss today, the way that there is such bitterness and hate from atheists, I would say I wouldn't want to be like that. Dr. Jerry Falwell of Liberty University, Thomas Road Baptist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia, he always stated that even if there wasn't a God, I would still want to live as a Christian because it gives you peace and love, and that's a better way to live your life than being full of hate and bitterness that just corrupts your soul and erodes you from the inside. But because of this, it's very hard to reach atheists with logical thought or scientific facts because for whatever reason they are bitter towards God. Whatever that bitterness may be, it may be from somebody letting them down as a child to maybe a pastor or priest that did something. There could be a million reasons. I remember having a discussion with a lady one time whose parents were divorced, and her father was supposed to pick her up for the weekend, and he didn't show, as always, because he had a drinking problem. And she prayed that God would strike him dead. And according to her, he got ran over by a dump truck at work and was killed that weekend. Because of this, she wanted to be an atheist and was very bitter. Which, if you ask me, I would be the opposite. I'd be like, wow, if God's going to kill people at my request, then I better listen to him. But these are the type of reasons why people become bitter towards the idea of a creator God. They cling to this hatred, and they will do anything to justify it, like religiously believe in scientific theory and try to force everybody to believe the same thing. But as we did in part 1, when you truly examine these scientific theories on why we are here, they just do not add up. In fact, they subtract from their argument. One of my biggest arguments against atheists is a recent study that scientists revealed on the statistics on how much information we actually know on Earth. In our solar system, it was only 4% of all knowledge, meaning just our sun, our planet, and the other planets, we only know 4% of all knowledge, which is basically nothing. Now take a guess just in your mind on what percentage of information we actually know according to the study in just our galaxy. Not talking about the whole universe, just our Milky Way galaxy. 100th billionth of a percentile. That is 100 billion going the right of the decimal point. To be clear, that is 0.0000000000001. 100th billionth of a percentile. Ladies and gentlemen, that is next to nothing. That practically is nothing. And that is what we know in our total galaxy. It cannot even be calculated on our whole universe. So if the atheist knows absolutely, basically nothing in the universe, then how can you 100% say that there is no higher power, that there is no creator? It truly is an absurd thought. To say absolutely that there is no God, higher power, creator, whatever you want to call it, in the universe when we know absolutely nothing is one of the most arrogant and ignorant things anyone can say. Now, I know people are going to say, Vince, well, people that believe in God believe the opposite way, and they know just as much. And I would agree with you. In truth, it's impossible for mankind on Earth to really know any information in the universe. And we're going to discuss that more in detail in a little bit. But to the atheists, that does not matter. They would rather put their faith, which they live in by more faith than anybody that believes in God, in theories that fly in the face of true, actual science. One of the arguments that atheists use is called the divine hiddenness. They state that if God is real and exists, then why does he not make himself more evident throughout the world? Why are there people that don't understand that there is a higher power? I reject this premise from the start because I think it's just so incredibly foolish that people believe that there is no evidence of God as if he's hiding his existence from man. Two things I think are clear in general revelation, which we'll get to later on in a different series. But creation and conscience are the two things that reveal to everybody that there's something more to this universe than humans or what we can necessarily see. Anyone can look at the stars, the earth, the perfect balance of everything like we discussed before, the Goldilocks theory of how we have life here on earth, and clearly see that we are not some cosmic accident, that this is all not a mistake, but has purposely been designed the way it is and works perfectly in balance and harmony throughout the whole universe from what we can see. The bitterness of atheists come to play here, to where they just deny this deep in their hearts and their minds, and they want to say this is not true, that if there's a God, we can't see any evidence. Ridiculous. Just look around the world and look at its beauty and just how perfect it is in every way. Besides what man has done to it, of course. And then the conscience. Deep down inside, you don't need a religious book or a pastor or a priest or anybody else to tell you that murder is wrong. Deep within us, we know that there are absolutes from within. You don't have to be told that murder is wrong. You do not have to be told that lying is wrong. You don't have to be told that stealing is wrong. You don't have to be told that sleeping with somebody's spouse is wrong. The quality of having a conscience comes from God and is in every natural man. How else do you describe how we know this deep within? The atheist declares that these morals are learned from sociological constructs. But all you have to do is look at a baby who has had their feelings hurt, a baby who had a toy taken away by another baby. Why do they begin to cry? Why does the one taking the other toy from them, why does that baby begin to cry? Because deep down inside our conscience, we know right from wrong. And they know it and they feel it. These morals are the result of the fingerprint of the Creator on us, and they do not have to be taught. So throughout creation and conscience, there is clear evidence that there is a higher power at work. It comes down to, once again, that bitterness within atheists that want to deny clearly the evidence that is right in front of our own noses. And again, if they want to be arrogant enough to declare that they understand everything throughout the universe when we only know 100 billionth of a percentile of all knowledge in the universe, then at that point there really is no reasoning with atheists. They are going to believe what they believe, no matter what anybody would say, no matter how right they are, no matter how facts are presented, no matter how astronomical the odds are, the possibility of there actually being a higher power in the universe. Of course, atheists use the argument that because there's such a widespread non-belief throughout the world in the existence of a higher power, that's evidence that there is none. That's just a moronic, idiotic argument that I've read several different places, when the fact of the matter is that current polling shows that only 7% of the whole entire world population are atheistic or agnostic, which means you are in the vast minority if you are an atheist. Again, while preparing for this video, I read and looked up any modern argument for atheism, and I am just truly in disbelief on how very minute and non-structured their arguments truly are. For this less than 7% of the population of the world, it truly just comes down to bitterness and anger and arrogance to think that they know better than everybody else in the world. They know better than all the religious beliefs in the world for thousands and thousands of years. And at that point, there's really no arguing with an atheist. You just have to present the truth and move on. The consequences will be the same for them, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. Which leads us to our next group, the agnostic. In my life, I've had many people tell me that they're agnostic than atheists. The agnostic is somebody who believes that there is a possibility that there is a higher power creator in the universe, but there's no way of knowing or understanding it. And to this point, I actually agree with them. Mankind are like microbes on the skin of the universe. We are much too small, unaware, and incapable of knowing a higher power, apart from that higher power revealing themselves to us. This definitely ruffles the feathers of the atheists, the scientists who claim to think they have it all figured out while denying the clear evidence right in front of our eyes that supports, in everyday life, that supports that there is a higher power. So in that fashion, we do agree that man cannot know or understand a higher power in the universe by his own intellect or experience. If there is a higher power out there, the only way we would know or understand or have any kind of relationship with that power is if that power revealed itself to us, mankind. If it does not, then we are just flying through space on a rock, never knowing how we are here and why we are here. Which brings me to my main argument against agnosticism. I call it the puppy dog argument. Follow along with me with this scenario. Imagine if a group of scientists got together and built this alternate reality, kind of like the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. An alternate reality, but this alternate world is built just for one baby puppy. You can use cat or any animal that you have some kind of attachment to. That works. But for this argument, we're just going to use a puppy because they're so adorable. Now imagine this reality is built where he has grass and rolling hills and maybe a pond and trees and some kind of video screens that simulate sky and a far range. There's food that's delivered every day down a chute and water and maybe puppy toys, so he has something to do. And they take a newborn puppy, just able to feed itself, maybe not with its eyes open yet. And they put this new puppy in this reality and just seal it shut. where he will spend the rest of its life. The puppy will have everything it needs to survive, but will never see another living being the rest of its life. The puppy will obviously wonder why it's there, how this all works, why he's the only one there, why he has no one to love or cuddle or just be with. And as he grows up and grows old, eventually the puppy dies without ever seeing another living soul the rest of his life. Isn't that heart-wrenching? Could you imagine a group of scientists or anybody doing such a thing to such a beautiful little dog? Anyone that looks at this scenario would know that that is just morally wrong to do to another living being. If not, their heart's not right or their head's not right. Which gets me to my moral argument of a higher power. If there is a higher power, a creator, that made the universe, put us here on Earth, with the ability of cognitive thought to where we can actually fathom there being a higher power, and that higher power never revealing itself to us so that we could understand why we are here, what the higher power wants out of us, and how we could have a relationship with that higher power, then that higher power is so incredibly evil and cruel that it's just like those people that would do that to that puppy. We've already decided that that would be immoral and evil to do to just a puppy. How much more evil would it be if there was an all-powerful creator of the universe doing it to us as humans, with us understanding that there's got to be a reason that we're here? It would be disgustingly evil. If we can understand the moral argument, then how much would a all-powerful, all-knowing higher power understand it more than us? How much more moral would that higher power be than a human? Infinitely more. So my argument is, if there is a higher power, if there is a creator, which everything points to through creation and conscience and logic and intellect, not scientific theory trying to prove that there is not a God, then that higher power must morally obligated to reveal itself to mankind, his creation, that is intelligent enough to understand that there's something out there. To me, it's an absolute. You can't have the creation having a higher morality than the creator. That doesn't work on any logical level. The arguments from atheists and agnostics just does not hold up under scrutiny. Their ideals go against science, intellect, and morality. And again, comes down to bitterness towards a creator. When you see how vile they can be, how arrogant they can be when arguing, you will see it morally within and know that it's wrong. Their rage clearly shows that they are only truly raging within, with the conflict of their conscience and intellect, fighting against the truth that there is a creator, and deep down inside they know it. And they will never truly find any peace in life until they come to peace with the fact that they are created beings, crafted by a power and intelligence greater than them, with them realizing that they are only trying to fight the wind in a hurricane. They will not win, and they know that they will lose. And of course, that's where all the bitterness comes from. Going over my notes, I wanted to just give one more argument that been presented to me. Atheists and agnostics have brought up to my attention that if there is a God, then why, and this is a general question, everybody has had this, why does he allow mankind to suffer? Why does he allow paraplegics to not be healed? Why does God allow disease and death? And my response is always the same. Why are you blaming God for that? The idea that this is all God's fault, all bad things are God's fault, comes from the false theological understanding that God makes everything happen. The God of the Bible is absolutely all-powerful, the source of all things, and sovereign, but that does not mean that he makes everything happen. He allows man to make his own choices and suffer the consequences. It's not God's fault, so stop blaming him. He gave us paradise, and we destroyed it. Evil, disease, death, that's all on man, not God. So stop using that as an excuse for your unbelief. And we'll discuss that later in a different video. For now, we're building up to the next argument. Now that we've seen that atheists and agnostics are mostly just bitter, and that's why they deny God, and they only make up 7% of the world population. If there is a higher power, then he is morally obligated to present himself to the rest of the world. So the logical conclusion is that he did reveal himself to the world. But with so many different philosophies and religions around the world, the question then becomes which one is correct. An obvious observation is that if God revealed himself, which he has, then why are there all these different religions around the world? How can you be sure you're following the right religion, understanding of God? And that is what we are going to talk about in part 3 of this series. Once again, this is Vincent S. Miller, and I thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Our goal is to reach as many people as we can online, even though they may not want to have these discussions. And that's fine, but one day everyone will be held accountable. Thank you again, and God bless.